Package org.parosproxy.paros.extension.filter. Import java.utility.regex.matcher. Import org.parosproxy.paros.network.http malformed header exception. Import org.parosproxy.paros.network.http message. To change the template for this generated type comment, go to Window, Preferences, Java, Code Generation, Code and Comments. Public class filter replace response header extends filter abstract replace. Non-Java doc. At ccom proof secure.paros.extension.filter adapter number get ID. Public int get ID. Return 70. Non-Java doc. At ccom proof secure.paros.extension.filter adapter number get name. Public string get name. Return replace HTTP response header using defined pattern. Non-Java doc. At ccom proof secure.paros.extension.filter adapter number on prequest send, com proof secure.paros.network.http message. Public void on prequest send, HTTP message. Non-Java doc. At ccom proof secure.paros.extension.filter adapter number on pre-sponsor receive, com proof secure.paros.network.http message. Public void on pre-sponsor receive, HTTP message. If get pattern equals null. Return. Else if message get response header dot is empty. Return. Matcher equals get pattern dot matcher message get response header dot toString. String result equals matcher dot replace all get replace text. Try. Message get response header dot set message result. Catch HTTP malformed header exception e. Package org.parosproxy.paros.view. Import java.awt.component. Import java.awt.frame. Import java.awt.headless exception. Import java.awt.toolkit. Import javax.swing.jframe. Import javax.swing.text.jtext component. Import javax.swing.abstractAction. Import javax.swing.jComponent. Import javax.swing.jLabel. Import javax.swing.jPanel. Import javax.swing.jButton. Import javax.swing.keystroke. Import java.awt.gridBagLayout. Import java.awt.gridBagConstraints. Import java.awt.event.actionEvent. Import java.awt.event.keyEvent. Import javax.swing.jTextField. Import org.parosproxy.paros.extension.abstract To change the template for this generated type comment, go to Window, Preferences, Java, Code Generation, Code and Comments. Public class find dialog extends abstract dialog. Private jPanel equals null. Private jButton btn find equals null. Private jButton btn cancel equals null. Private jTextField text find equals null. Private jPanel 1 equals null. Private jText component last invoker equals null. At param last invoker, the last invoker to set. Public void set last invoker, jText component last invoker. This dot last invoker equals last invoker. At throws headless exception. Public find dialog, throws headless exception. Super. Initialize. At param arg0. At param arg1. At throws headless exception. Public find dialog, frame arg0, boolean arg1, throws headless exception. Super, arg0, arg1. Initialize. This method initializes this. At return void. Private void initialize. This dot set visible, false. This dot set resizable, false. This dot set title, find. This dot set content pane, get jpanel. This dot set size, 261, 111. Center dialog. Text find dot request focus. This dot getrude pane, dot set default button, btn find. Handle escape key to close the dialog. Keystroke escape equals keystroke dot get stroke, keyvent dot vk underscore escape, 0, false. Abstract action escape action equals new abstract action. Public void action performed, action event e. Find dialog dot this dot set visible, false. Getrude pane, dot get input map, jcomponent dot when underscore in underscore focused underscore window, dot put, escape, escape. Getrude pane, dot get action map, dot put, escape escape action. Pack. Private void find. JText component text comp equals last invoker. If text comp equals null. JFrame parent equals JFrame, this dot get parent. Component C equals parent dot get most recent focus owner. If C instance of JText component. Text comp equals JText component C. Try. String find text equals text find dot get text dot to lowercase. String text equals text comp dot get text dot to lowercase. Int start pos equals text dot index of find text text comp dot get caret position. Int length equals find text dot length. If start pos -1. Text comp dot select start pos end length. Text comp dot request focus. Text find dot request focus. Else. Toolkit dot get default toolkit dot beep. Catch exception e. This method initializes jpanel. At return javax dot swing dot jpanel. Private jpanel get jpanel. If jpanel equals null. Java.awt.gridBag constraints 6 equals new gridbag constraints. Java.awt.gridBag constraints 5 equals new gridbag constraints. Java.awt.gridBag constraints 1 equals new gridbag constraints. javax.swing.jlabel equals new jlabel. Jpanel equals new jpanel. Jpanel.set layout, new gridbag layout. Jlabel.set text, find what? Gridbag constraints 1.gridx equals 0. Gridbag constraints 1.grid equals 0. Gridbag constraints 1.insets equals new java.awt.insets, 2,10,2,10. Gridbag constraints 1.anchor equals java.awt.gridbagconstraints.west. Gridbag constraints 5.weights equals 1.0. Gridbag constraints 5.fill equals java.awt.gridbagconstraints.horizontal. Gridbag constraints 5.anchor equals java.awt.gridbagconstraints.west. Gridbag constraints 5.gridx equals 1. Gridbag constraints 5.grid equals 0. Gridbag constraints 5.insets equals new java.awt.insets, 12,2,8,10. Gridbag constraints 5.apadx equals 50. Gridbag constraints 5.gridwidth equals 2. Gridbag constraints 6.gridwidth equals 3. Gridbag constraints 6.gridx equals 0. Gridbag constraints 6.grid equals 1. Gridbag constraints 6.insets equals new java.awt.insets, 2,2,2,2. Jpanel.add, jlabel, gridbag constraints 1. Jpanel.add, gets find, gridbag constraints 5. Jpanel.add, get jpanel 1, gridbag constraints 6. Return jpanel. This method initializes btn find. At return javax.swing.jbutton. Private jbutton get btn find. If btn find equals null. btn find equals new j button. btn find dot set text, find. btn find dot add action listener, new java.awt.event.action listener. Public void action performed, java.awt.event.action event e. Find. Return btn find. This method initializes btn cancel. At return javax.swing.j button. Private j button get btn cancel. If btn cancel equals null. btn cancel equals new j button. btn cancel dot set text, cancel. btn cancel dot add action listener, new java.awt.event.action listener. Public void action performed, java.awt.event.action event e. Find dialog. This set visible, false. Return btn cancel. This method initializes text find. At return javax.swing.j text field. Private j text field gets find. If text find equals null. Text find equals new j text field. Text find dot set minimum size, new java.awt.dimension, 120,24. Text find dot set preferred size, new java.awt.dimension, 120,24. Return text find. This method initializes jpanel1. At return javax.swing.jpanel. Private jpanel get jpanel1. If jpanel1 equals null. jpanel1 equals new jpanel. jpanel1 dot set minimum size, new java.awt.dimension, 15535. jpanel1 dot add, get btn find, null. jpanel1 dot add, get btn cancel, null. Return jpanel1. At javdicl index equals 0 visual constraint equals 10,10. Package org.paros proxy.paros.core.spider. Import java.utility vector. Public class form extends tag. Public static final string post equals post. Get equals get. Private static final parser tag parser equals new parser tag, tag.form, parser tag.closing underscore tag underscore yes. Private static final parser parser attraction equals new parser iter.action. Private static final parser parse rater method equals new parser iter.method. Private string action equals. Method equals. Private select equals null. Private input equals null. Private text area equals null. Public static form get forms, string doc. Vector forms equals new vector. Parser.parse, doc. While, parser.next tag. String content equals parser.get content. String address equals parser.get address. Form equals new form. Form.build address. Form.build, content. Forms.add element, form. Form result equals new form forms.size. Result equals, form, forms.toArray, result. Return result. Protected void build, string content. Select equals select.getSelects, content. Input equals input.get inputs, content. Text area equals text area.get textareas, content. Protected void build address, string address. Super.build address. Action equals parser attraction.get value, address. Method equals parse rater method.get value, address. At return returns the action. Public string get action. Return action. At return returns the input. Public input get input. Return input. At return returns the method. Public string get method. Return method. At return returns the select. Public select get select. Return select. Public text area get text area. Return text area. Package org.paros proxy.paros.core.spider. Import java.utility vector. Public class frame extends org.paros proxy.paros.core.spider.tag. Parser for a tag. Private static final parser tag parser equals new parser tag, frame, parser tag dot closing underscore tag underscore yes. Parser for href attribute and tag. Private static final parser iter parse ratersrc equals new parser iter.src. Private string src equals. Get an array of frame tags. At param doc. The HTML document to be parsed. At return array of a. Public static frame get frames, string doc. Vector frames equals new vector. Parser.parse, doc. While, parser.next tag. String content equals parser.get content. String address equals parser.get address. Frame f equals new frame. f.build address, address. f.build, content. Frames.add, f. Frame result equals new frame frames.size. Result equals, frame, frames.toArray, result. Return result. Protected void build address, string address. Super.build address, address. src equals parse ratersrc.get value, address. At return returns the href. Public string get src. Return src. Individuals on behalf of the Apache Software Foundation. For more information on the Apache Software Foundation, please see http://www.apache.org. Packageorg.parosproxy.paros.network. Import java.utility iterator. Import java.utility vector. Import org.apache.commons.client.nameValuePair. Import org.apache.commons.client.utility encoding util. Import org.apache.commons.logging.log. Import org.apache.commons.logging.log factory. Import org.apache.commons.client.methods.byteArrayRequestEntity. Import org.apache.commons.client.methods.entity enclosing method. Import org.apache.commons.methods.requestEntity. This class is basing on the HTTP client under Apache License 2.0. Public class generic method extends entity enclosing method. Log object for this class. Private static final log equals log factory.getLog, generic method.class. The content type for www form Erlang coded. Public static final string form underscore URL underscore encoded underscore content underscore type equals. Application www form Erlang coded. The buffered request body consisting of code name value pair code s. Private vector params equals new vector. Private string method equals null. Public generic method, string method. Super. This dot method equals new string, method. Public generic method, string URI. Super, URI. This dot method equals new string, method. Returns TT generic TT. At return TT generic TT. Public string get name. Return method. Returns TT true TT if there is a request body to be sent. This method must be overridden by subclasses that implement alternative request content input methods. At return boolean. Protected boolean has request content. Log.trace, enter generic method.has request content. If this .params. Is empty. Return true. Else. Return super.has request content. Clears request body. This method must be overridden by subclasses that implement alternative request content input methods p. At since 2.0 beta 1. Protected void clearQuest body. Log.trace, enter generic method.clearQuest body. This.params.clear. Super.clearQuest body generates a request entity from the post parameters, if present. Calls at link entity enclosing method number generator request body, if parameters have not been set. At since 3.0. Protected request entity generator request entity. If this.params. Is empty. Use a byte array request entity instead of a string request entity. This is to avoid potential encoding issues. Form URL encoded strings are ASCII by definition, but the content type may not be. Treating the content as bytes allows us to keep the current char set without worrying about how this char set will affect the encoding of the form URL encoded string. String content equals encoding util.formularLengcode, get parameters, get request char set. Byte array request entity equals new byte array request entity. Encoding util.getASCII content. Form URL encoded content type. Return entity. Else. Return super.generator request entity. Sets the value of parameter with parameter name to parameter value. This method does not preserve the initial insertion order. At param parameter name of the parameter. At param parameter value of the parameter. At since 2.0. Public void set parameter, string parameter name, string parameter value. Log.trace, enter post method.set parameter, string. Remove parameter, parameter name. Add parameter, parameter name, parameter value. Gets the parameter of the specified name. If there exists more than one parameter with the name param name, then only the first one is returned. At param name of the parameter. At return if a parameter exists with the name argument, the corresponding name value pair is returned. Otherwise null. At since 2.0. Public name value pair get parameter, string param name. Log.trace, enter post method.get parameter, string. If param name equals null. Return null. Iterator equals this.params.iterator. While iter.has next. Name value pair parameter equals name value pair iter.next. If param name equals parameter.get name. Return parameter. Return null. Gets the parameters currently added to the post method. If there are no parameters, a valid array is returned with 0 elements. The returned array object contains an array of pointers to the internal data members. At return an array of the current parameters. At since 2.0. Public name value pair get parameters. Log.trace, enter post method.get parameters. Int number pairs equals this.params.size. Object arr equals this.params.toArray. Name value pair endPair equals new name value pair number pairs. 4. Int I equals 0, I number pairs, I++. EndPair I equals, name value pair, object arri. Return endPair. Adds a new parameter to be used in the post request body. At param name the parameter name to add. At param value the parameter value to add. At throws a legal argument exception if either argument is null. At since 1.0. Public void add parameter, string param name, string param value. Throws a legal argument exception. Log.trace, enter post method.add parameter, string. If param name equals null, param value equals null. Throw new illegal argument exception. Arguments to add parameter, string, cannot be null. Super.clearQuest body. This.params.add, new name value pair, param name, param value. Adds a new parameter to be used in the post request body. At param the parameter to add. At throws a legal argument exception if the argument is null or contains null values. At since 2.0. Public void add parameter, name value pair param. Throws a legal argument exception. Log.trace, enter post method.add parameter, name value pair. If param equals null. Throw new illegal argument exception, name value pair may not be null. Add parameter, param.getName, param.getValue. Adds an array of parameters to be used in the post request body. Logz. Warning if the parameters argument is null. At param parameters the array of parameters to add. At since 2.0. Public void add parameters, name value pair parameters. Log.trace, enter post method.add parameters, name value pair. If parameters equals null. Log.warn, attempt to add parameters, null, ignored. Else. Super.clearQuest body. 4. Int I equals 0, I parameters.length, I++. This.params.add, parameters I. Removes all parameters with the given param name. If there is more than one parameter with the given param name, all of them are removed. If there is just one, it is removed. If there are none, then the request is ignored. At param name the parameter name to remove. At return true if at least one parameter was removed. At throws a legal argument exception when the parameter name passed is null. At since 2.0. Public boolean remove parameter, string param name. Throws a legal argument exception. Log.trace, enter post method.remove parameter, string. If param name equals null. Throw new illegal argument exception. Argument passed to remove parameter, string, cannot be null. Boolean removed equals false. Iterator iter equals this.params.iterator. While, iter.has next. Name value pair equals, name value pair, iter.next. If, param name equals, pair.getName. Iter.remove. Removed equals true. Return removed. Removes all parameter with the given param name and param value. If there is more than one parameter with the given param name, only one is removed. If there are none, then the request is ignored. At param name the parameter name to remove. At param value the parameter value to remove. At return true if a parameter was removed. At throws a legal argument exception when param name or value are null. At since 2.0. Public boolean remove parameter, string param name, string param value. Throws a legal argument exception. Log.trace, enter post method.remove parameter, string, string. If param name equals null. Throw new illegal argument exception, parameter name may not be null. If param value equals null. Throw new illegal argument exception, parameter value may not be null. Iterator iter equals this.params.iterator. While, iter.has next. Name value pair equals, name value pair, iter.next. If, param name equals, pair.getName. End param value equals, pair.getValue. Iter.remove. Return true. Return false. Sets an array of parameters to be used in the post request body. At param parameters body the array of parameters to add. At throws a legal argument exception when param parameters are null. At since 2.0 beta 1. Public void request body, name value pair parameters body. Throws a legal argument exception. Log.trace, enter post method.request body, name value pair. If parameters body equals null. Throw new illegal argument exception, array of parameters may not be null. Clearquest body. Add parameters, parameters body. Foundation, Inc., 59 Temple Place Suite 330, Boston, Massachusetts 02111-1307 USA. Package org.paros proxy.paros.extension.history. Import java.awt.frame. Import java.awt.gridbag constraints. Import java.awt.gridbag layout. Import java.awt.gridlayout. Import java.awt.headless exception. Import java.awt.event.action event. Import java.awt.event.keyEvent. Import java.utilityregx.pattern. Import javax.swing.abstractAction. Import javax.swing.buttonGroup. Import javax.swing.jButton. Import javax.swing.jComponent. Import javax.swing.jLabel. Import javax.swing.jOptionPane. Import javax.swing.jPanel. Import javax.swing.jRadioButton. Import javax.swing.jTextField. Import javax.swing.keystroke. Import org.parosproxy.paros.extension.abstractDialog. Import org.parosproxy.paros.view.view. To change the template for this generated type comment, go to Window, Preferences, Java, Code Generation, Code and Comments. Public class history filter dialog extends abstract dialog. Private jPanel equals null. Private jButton btn apply equals null. Private jButton btn cancel equals null. Private jTextField text pattern equals null. Private jPanel1 equals null. Private int exit result equals jOptionPane.cancel _ option. Private jButton btn reset equals null. Private jPanel2 equals null. Private jRadioButton radio exact equals null. Private jRadioButton radio regex equals null. At throws headless exception. Public history filter dialog, throws headless exception. Super. Initialize. At param arg0. At param arg1. At throws headless exception. Public history filter dialog, frame arg0, boolean arg1, throws headless exception. Super, arg0, arg1. Initialize. This method initializes this. At return void. Private void initialize. This dot set content pane, get jPanel. This dot set visible, false. This dot set resizable, false. This dot set title, filter history. This dot set size, 400, 188. Center dialog. Text pattern dot request focus. This dot getrude pane, dot set default button, btn apply. Handle escape key to close the dialog. Keystroke escape equals keystroke dot getEstroke, keyEvent dot vk _ escape, 0, false. Abstract action escape action equals new abstract action. Public void action performed, action event e. History filter dialog dot this dot dispose. Getrude pane, dot get input map, jComponent dot when _ in _ focused _ window, dot put, escape, escape. Getrude pane, dot get action map, dot put, escape escape action. This dot pack. This method initializes jPanel. At return javax.swing.jPanel. Private jPanel get jPanel. If jPanel equals null. Gridbag constraints 12 equals new gridbag constraints. Java.awt.gridbag constraints 11 equals new gridbag constraints. javax.swing.jlabel jlabel1 equals new jlabel. java.awt.gridbag constraints gridbag constraints 6 equals new gridbag constraints. java.awt.gridbag constraints gridbag constraints 5 equals new gridbag constraints. java.awt.gridbag constraints gridbag constraints 1 equals new gridbag constraints. javax.swing.jlabel jlabel equals new jlabel. jpanel equals new jpanel. jpanel.setLayout, new gridbag layout. jlabel.setText, pattern. Gridbag constraints 1.gridx equals 0. Gridbag constraints 1.grid equals 1. Gridbag constraints 1.insets equals new java.awt.insets, 5,10, 5,10. Gridbag constraints 1.anchor equals java.awt.gridbagconstraints.west. Gridbag constraints 5.weights equals 1.0. Gridbag constraints 5.ipad equals 1. Gridbag constraints 5.fill equals java.awt.gridbagconstraints.horizontal. Gridbag constraints 5.anchor equals java.awt.gridbagconstraints.west. Gridbag constraints 5.gridx equals 1. Gridbag constraints 5.grid equals 1. Gridbag constraints 5.insets equals new java.awt.insets, 2,2,2,10. Gridbag constraints 5.ipadx equals 100. Gridbag constraints 5.gridwidth equals 2. Gridbag constraints 6.gridwidth equals 3. Gridbag constraints 6.gridx equals 0. Gridbag constraints 6.grid equals 3. Gridbag constraints 6.insets equals new java.awt.insets, 5,2,5,2. Gridbag constraints 6.ipadx equals 3. Gridbag constraints 6.ipad equals 3. jlabel1.setText, HTML. Enter the string below to filter requests responses with matching string pattern in history. Regular expression is supported HTML. jlabel1.set maximum size, new java.awt.dimension, 2147483647,80. jlabel1.set minimum size, new java.awt.dimension, 350,24. jlabel1.set preferred size, new java.awt.dimension, 350,50. Gridbag constraints 11.gridx equals 0. Gridbag constraints 11.grid equals 0. Gridbag constraints 11.insets equals new java.awt.insets, 5,10, 5,10. Gridbag constraints 11.weights equals 1.0d. Gridbag constraints 11.gridwidth equals 3. Gridbag constraints 11.anchor equals java.awt.gridbagconstraints.west. Gridbag constraints 11.fill equals java.awt.gridbagconstraints.horizontal. Gridbag constraints 11.ipadx equals 3. Gridbag constraints 11.ipad equals 3. Gridbag constraints 12.gridx equals 0. Gridbag constraints 12.gridwidth equals 3. Gridbag constraints 12.grid equals 2. Gridbag constraints 12.fill equals java.awt.gridbagconstraints.horizontal. Gridbag constraints 12.insets equals new java.awt.insets, 2,10, 2,10. Gridbag constraints 12.ipadx equals 0. Gridbag constraints 12.ipad equals 1. jpanel.add, jlabel1, gridbag constraints 11. jpanel.add, jlabel, gridbag constraints 1. jpanel.add, getst pattern, gridbag constraints 5. jpanel.add, get jpanel 2, gridbag constraints 12. jpanel.add, get jpanel 1, gridbag constraints 6. Return jpanel. This method initializes btn_apply. At return javax.swing.jButton. Private jButton get btn_apply. If btn_apply equals null. btn_apply equals new jButton. btn_apply.setText, apply. btn apply.set preferred size, new java.awt.dimension, 70,30. btn apply.set maximum size, new java.awt.dimension, 135. btn apply.set minimum size, new java.awt.dimension, 63,30. btn apply.add action listener, new java.awt.event.action listener. Public void action performed, java.awt.event.action event e. Try. Pattern equals pattern.compile, get pattern. Catch, exception e1. View.getSingleton, .show warning dialog, invalid pattern. Return. Exit result equals joption pane.ok underscore option. History filter dialog.this.dispose. Return btn apply. This method initializes btn cancel. At return javax.swing.j button. Private j button get btn cancel. If btn cancel equals null. btn cancel equals new j button. btn cancel.set text, cancel. btn cancel.add action listener, new java.awt.event.action listener. Public void action performed, java.awt.event.action event e. Exit result equals joption pane.cancel underscore option. History filter dialog.this.dispose. Return btn cancel. This method initializes text pattern. At return javax.swing.j text field. Private j text field gets pattern. If text pattern equals null. Text pattern equals new j text field. Return text pattern. This method initializes jpanel1. At return javax.swing.jpanel. Private jpanel get jpanel1. If jpanel1 equals null. jpanel1 equals new jpanel. jpanel1.add, get btn apply, null. jpanel1.add, get btn reset, null. jpanel1.add, get btn cancel, null. Return jpanel1. Public int show dialog. This set visible, true. Return exit result. Public string get pattern. String result equals. If getRadio regex, is selected. Result equals gets pattern, get text. Else if getRadio exact, is selected. Result equals \\q plus gets pattern, get text, plus \\e. Return result. This method initializes btn reset. At return javax.swing.j button. Private j button get btn reset. If btn reset equals null. btn reset equals new j button. btn reset.set text, reset filter. btn reset.add action listener, new java.awt.event.action listener. Public void action performed, java.awt.event.action event e. Exit result equals joption pane.no underscore option. Text pattern.set text. History filter dialog.this.dispose. Return btn reset. This method initializes jpanel2. At return javax.swing.jpanel. Private jpanel get jpanel2. If jpanel2 equals null. Grid layout 3 equals new grid layout. jpanel2 equals new jpanel. jpanel2.set layout, grid layout 3. Grid layout 3.set rows, 1. jpanel2.add, getRadio exact, null. jpanel2.add, getRadio regex, null. Button group equals new button group. Group.add, getRadio exact. Group.add, getRadio regex. Return jpanel2. This method initializes radio exact. At return javax.swing.j radio button. Private j radio button getRadio exact. If radio exact equals null. Radio exact equals new j radio button. Radio exact.set text, exact, Case insensitive. Radio exact. Set selected, true. Return radio exact. This method initializes radio regex. At return javax.swing.j radio button. Private j radio button get radio regex. If radio regex equals null. Radio regex equals new j radio button. Radio regex. Set text, regular expression. Return radio regex. At javdicl index equals 0 visual constraint equals 10,10. Package org.paros proxy.paros.model. Import javax.swing.default list model. To change the template for this generated type comment, go to Window, Preferences, Java, Code Generation, Code and Comments. Public class history list extends default list model. Public void add element, final object obj. If, event q.is dispatch thread. Synchronized, this. Super.add element, obj. Return. Try. Event q.invoke later, new runnable. Public void run. Synchronized, history list.this. History list.super.add element, obj. Catch, exception e. Super.add element, obj. Public synchronized void notif item changed, object obj. Int I equals index of, obj. If I equals 0. Fire contents changed, this, I. Package org.paros proxy.paros.model. Import java.sql.sql exception. Import org.paros proxy.paros.db.record history. Import org.paros proxy.paros.db.table history. Import org.paros proxy.paros.network.http malformed header exception. Import org.paros proxy.paros.network.http message. This class abstracts a reference to a HTTP message stored in database. It read the whole HTTP message from database when gethed p message is called. Public class history reference. Temporary type equals not retrieved from history. To be deleted. Public static final int type underscore temporary equals 0. Public static final int type underscore manual equals 1. Public static final int type underscore spider equals 2. Public static final int type underscore scanner equals 3. Public static final int type underscore spider underscore seed equals 4. Public static final int type underscore spider underscore visited equals 5. Public static final int type underscore hidden equals 6. VE means unsaved message. Public static final int type underscore spider underscore unsave equals type underscore spider. Private static java.text.decimal format equals new java.text.decimal format, number 0 number. Private static table history static table story equals null. Private int history ID equals 0. Private int history type equals type underscore manual. Private site node equals null. Private string display equals null. Private long session ID equals 0. At return returns the session ID. Public long get sessioned. Return session ID. Public history reference, int history ID, throws HTTP malformed header exception, SQL exception. Record history equals null. History equals static table story.read, history ID. HTTP message equals history.getP message. Build, history.getSessioned, history.getHistoried, history.getHistory type, message. Public history reference, session, int history type, HTTP message, throws HTTP malformed header exception, SQL exception. Record history equals null. history equals static double story dot write, session dot get sessioned, history type, message. Build, session dot get sessioned, history dot get historied, history dot get history type, message. Private void build, long session ID, int history type, HTTP message. This dot session ID equals session ID. This dot history ID equals history ID. This dot history type equals history type. If history type equals type underscore manual. This dot display equals get display, message. Public static void settable history, table history. Static double story equals table history. At return returns the history ID. Public int get historied. Return history ID. Public HTTP message get p message, throws HTTP malformed header exception, SQL exception. Fetch complete message. Record history equals static double story dot read, history ID. Return history dot get p message. Public string tossed ring. If display equals null. Return display. HTTP message equals null. Try. Message equals get p message. Display equals get display, message. Catch, HTTP malformed header exception E1. Display equals. Catch, SQL exception E. Display equals. Return display. At return returns the history type. Public int get history type. Return history type. Delete this history reference from database. Public void delete. If history ID 0. Try. Static double story dot delete, history ID. Catch, SQL exception E. E.print stack trace. At return returns the site node. Public site node get site node. Return site node. At param site node the site node to set. Public void set site node, site node. This dot site node equals site node. Private string get display, HTTP message. String buffer SB equals new string buffer, integer dot tossed ring, history ID, plus. SB append, message get request header, dot get prime header. If, message get response header, dot is empty. SB append, \t equals plus message get response header, dot get prime header. String diff time string equals \t plus decimal format dot format, double, message get time elapsed millis, 1000.0, plus s. SB append, diff time string. Return SB tossed ring. Public void set tag, string tag. Try. Static double story dot update tag, history ID, tag. Catch, SQL exception E. E.print stack trace. Package org.paros proxy.paros.network. To change the template for this generated type comment, go to Window, Preferences, Java, Code Generation, Code and Comments. Public class host authentication. Private string host name equals. Private int port equals 80. Private string username equals. Private string password equals. Private string realm equals. Public host authentication. Public host authentication, string host name, int port, string username, string password, string realm. Super. Host name, host name. Set port, port. Set username. Set password, password. Set realm, realm. At return returns the host name. Public string get host name. Return host name. At param host name the host name to set. Public voids host name, string host name. This dot host name equals host name. At return returns the password. Public string get password. Return password. At param password the password to set. Public void set password, string password. This dot password equals password. At return returns the port. Public int get port. Return port. At param port the port to set. Public void set port, int port. This dot port equals port. At return returns the realm. Public string get realm. Return realm. At param realm the realm to set. Public void set realm, string realm. This dot realm equals realm. At return returns the username. Public string get username. Return username. At param username the username to set. Public void seed username, string username. This dot username equals username. Package org.parosproxy.paros.core.scanner. Import java.text.decimal format. Import java.utility hash map. Import org.apache.commons.logging.log. Import org.apache.commons.logging.log factory. Import org.parosproxy.paros.common.thread Import org.parosproxy.paros.model.site Import org.parosproxy.paros.network.connection param. Import org.parosproxy.paros.network.http message. Import org.parosproxy.paros.network.http sender. To change the template for this generated type comment go to Window, Preferences, Java, Code Generation, Code and Comments. Public class host process implements runnable. Private static log equals log factory.get log, host process.class. Private static decimal format equals new java.text.decimal format, number 0 number. Private site node start node equals null. Private boolean is stop equals false. Private plugin factory equals null. Private scanner param equals null. Private HTTP sender equals null. Private thread pool equals null. Private scanner parent scanner equals null. Private string host endport equals. Private analyzer equals null. Private kb equals null. Time related. Private hash map plugin start time equals new hash map. Private long host process start time equals 0. Public host process, string host endport, scanner parent scanner param, connection param. Super. This dot host endport equals host endport. This dot parent scanner equals parent scanner. This dot scanner param equals scanner param. HTTP sender equals new HTTP sender, connection param, true. Thread pool equals new thread pool, scanner param.get thread per host. Public void set start node, site node start node. This dot start node equals start node. Public void stop. Is stop equals true. Get analyzer, dot stop. Public void run. Host process start time equals system.current to me millis. Get analyzer, dot start node. Plugin equals null. While, is stop and get plugin factory, dot exist plugin to run. Plugin equals get plugin factory, dot next plugin. If, plugin, equals null. Process plugin. Else. Waiting for dependency, no test ready yet. util.sleep, 1000. Thread pool.waitil thread complete, 300,000. Notify host progress, null. Notify host complete. Get sender, dot shutdown. Private void process plugin. Log.info, start host plus host endport plus plugin.get codename. Map plugin start time.put, new long, plugin.get id, new long, system.current to me millis. If, plugin instancio of abstract host plugin. Scan single node, plugin, start node. Else if, plugin instancio of abstract tap plugin. Traverse, plugin, start node. Thread pool.waitel thread complete, 600,000. Plugin complete, plugin. Private plugin factory get plugin factory. If, plugin factory equals null. Plugin factory equals new plugin factory. Return plugin factory. Private void traverse, plugin, site node. If, node equals null plugin equals null. Return. Scan single node, plugin, node. 4, int I equals 0, I node.get child count, and, is stop, I++. Try. Traverse, plugin, site node.get child at, I. Catch, exception e.print stack trace. Create new plugin instance and run against a node. At param plugin. At param node. If node equals null, run for server level plugin. Private void scan single node, plugin, site node. Thread equals null. Plugin test equals null. HTTP message equals null. Do not poll for is stop here to allow every plugin to run but terminate immediately. If, is stop, return. Try. If, node equals null. Return. Message equals node.getHistoryReference.getHTTP message. Test equals, plugin.get class, .new instance. Test.setConfig, plugin.get config. Test.init, message, this. Notify host progress, plugin.get name, plus message get request header, .get URI, .toast ring. Catch, exception e.print stack trace. Return. 2. Thread equals thread pool.get free thread andron, test. If, thread equals null. util.sleep, 200. While, thread equals null. At return returns the HTTP sender. Public HTTP sender get sender. Return HTTP sender. Public boolean is stop. Return, is stop parent scanner. Is stop. Private void notify host progress, string message. Int percentage equals 0. If, get plugin factory, total plugin to run, equals 0. Percentage equals 100. Else. Percentage equals, 100 get plugin factory, total plugin completed, get plugin factory, total plugin to run. Parent scanner. Notify host progress, host and port, message, percentage. Private void notify host complete. Long diff to me millis equals system. Current to me millis, host process start time. String diff time string equals decimal format. Format, double, diff to me millis 1000.0, plus s. Log.info, completed host plus host and port plus in plus diff time string. Parent scanner. Notify host complete, host and port. Public void alert found, alert. Parent scanner. Notify alert found, alert. Public analyzer get analyzer. If, analyzer equals null. Analyzer equals new analyzer, get sender. Return analyzer. Void plugin complete, plugin. Object equals map plugin start time. Get, new long, plugin.get id. String buffer sb equals new string buffer. If, is stop. sb append, stopped host plugin. Else. sb append, completed host plugin. sb append, host and port plus plugin.get code name. If, obj, equals null. Long start to me millis equals, long, obj, long value. Long diff to me millis equals system. Current to me millis, start to me millis. String diff time string equals decimal format. Format, double, diftamimelis 1000.0, plus s. SB append, in plus diff time string. Log.info, SB tost ring. Get plugin factory, .strunning plugin completed, plugin. Notify host progress, null. KB get KB. If, KB equals null. KB equals new KB. Return KB. Package org.paros proxy.paros.extension.scanner. Import java.awt.gridbag constraints. Import java.awt.gridbag layout. Import javax.swing.jbutton. Import javax.swing.jlabel. Import javax.swing.jpanel. Import javax.swing.jprogressbar. Import org.paros proxy.paros.core.scanner.hostProcess. Import javax.swing.jscrollpane. To change the template for this generated type comment, go to Window, Preferences, Java, Code Generation, Code and Comments. Public class host progress meter extends jpanel. Private jlabel text host equals null. Private jprogressbar bar progress equals null. Private jbutton btn stop equals null. Private jlabel text display equals null. Private host process equals null. Private jscrollpane equals null. This is the default constructor. Public host progress meter. Super. Initialize. This method initializes this. At return void. Private void initialize. Gridbag constraints 12 equals new gridbag constraints. Gridbag constraints 5 equals new gridbag constraints. Java.awt.gridbag constraints 4 equals new gridbag constraints. Javax.swing.jlabel equals new jlabel. Java.awt.gridbag constraints 2 equals new gridbag constraints. Java.awt.gridbag constraints 1 equals new gridbag constraints. This .set layout, new gridbag layout. This .set size, 380, 76. This .set border, new javax.swing.border.softbevel border, javax.swing.border.softbevel border.raised. Gridbag constraints 1.gridx equals 1. Gridbag constraints 1.grid equals 0. Gridbag constraints 1.weights equals 1.0. Gridbag constraints 1.fill equals java.awt.gridbag constraints.horizontal. Gridbag constraints 1.insets equals new java.awt.insets, 2,2,2,5. Gridbag constraints 1.anchor equals java.awt.gridbag constraints.north. Gridbag constraints 2.gridx equals 0. Gridbag constraints 2.grid equals 1. Gridbag constraints 2.insets equals new java.awt.insets, 2,5,2,2. Gridbag constraints 2.fill equals java.awt.gridbag constraints.horizontal. Gridbag constraints 2.weights equals 1.0d. Gridbag constraints 2.anchor equals java.awt.gridbag constraints.northwest. Gridbag constraints 2.gridwidth equals 2. Jlabel.set text, host. Gridbag constraints 4.gridx equals 0. Gridbag constraints 4.grid equals 0. Gridbag constraints 4.insets equals new java.awt.insets, 2,5,2,5. Gridbag constraints 4.anchor equals java.awt.gridbag constraints.northwest. Gridbag constraints 5.anchor equals java.awt.gridbag constraints.northeast. Gridbag constraints 5.gridx equals 2. Gridbag constraints 5.grid equals 1. Gridbag constraints 5.insets equals new java.awt.insets, 2,2,2,5. Gridbag constraints 12.weights equals 1.0. Grid bag constraints 12.weight equals 0.0d. Grid bag constraints 12.fill equals java.awt. Grid bag constraints.horizontal. Grid bag constraints 12.anchor equals java.awt. Grid bag constraints.northwest. Grid bag constraints 12.grid width equals 2. Grid bag constraints 12.gridx equals 0. Grid bag constraints 12.grid equals 2. Grid bag constraints 12.insets equals new java.awt.insets, 2,5,2,5. This dot add, JLabel, grid bag constraints 4. This dot add, gets thost, grid bag constraints 1. This dot add, get ton stop, grid bag constraints 5. This dot add, get bar progress, grid bag constraints 2. This dot add, get j scroll pane, grid bag constraints 12. This method initializes text host. At return javax.swing.j text field. JLabel gets thost. If text host equals null. Text host equals new JLabel. Return text host. This method initializes bar progress. At return javax.swing.j progress bar. Private j progress bar get bar progress. If bar progress equals null. Bar progress equals new j progress bar. Bar progress dot set preferred size, new java.awt. Dimension, 150,20. Return bar progress. This method initializes btn stop. At return javax.swing.j button. Private j button get ton stop. If btn stop equals null. btn stop equals new j button. btn stop dot set text, stop. btn stop dot add action listener, new java.awt.event.action listener. Public void action performed, java.awt.event.action event e. If host process equals null. Host process dot stop. btn stop dot set enabled, false. Return btn stop. Void set progress, string message, int percentage. Get bar progress, dot set value, percentage. Gets display, dot set text, message. Voids thost process, host thread. This dot host process equals host thread. This method initializes text display. At return javax.swing.j text field. Private JLabel gets display. If text display equals null. Text display equals new JLabel. Return text display. This method initializes j scroll pane. At return javax.swing.j scroll pane. Private j scroll pane get j scroll pane. If j scroll pane equals null. J scroll pane equals new j scroll pane. J scroll pane dot set viewport view gets display. J scroll pane dots the horizontal scroll bar policy, javax.swing.j scroll pane dot horizontal underscore scroll bar underscore never. J scroll pane dot set vertical scroll bar policy, javax.swing.j scroll pane dot vertical underscore scroll bar underscore never. J scroll pane dot set border, javax.swing.border factory.create tie border, 0,0,0,0. Return j scroll pane. At jvdicl index equals 0 visual constraint equals 10,10. Package org.paros proxy.paros.core.spider. Import org.apache.commons.client.uri. Import org.apache.commons.client.uri exception. An HTML used for spider collector. Public class HTML. Private string doc equals. Private URI equals null. Constructor. At param URL. URL of the HTML. At param plain doc. The plain text HTML. For pattern matching. This is required as HTML document cannot return the plain text. Public HTML, URI, string doc. This .URI equals URI. This .doc equals doc. Base bases equals get bases. If bases .length 0. If bases 0 .get ref .length greater than 0. Base ref exists. Try. URI equals new URI, bases 0. Get ref false. Catch, exception E. Public URI get URI. Return URI. Public string toString. Return doc. Public form get forms. Return form. Get forms, doc. Public a getas. Return a. Getas, doc. Public frame get frames. Return frame. Get frames, doc. Public img get imgs. Return img. Get imgs, doc. Public hyperlink get hyperlinks. Return hyperlink. Get hyperlinks, doc. Public meta get metas. Return meta. Get metas, doc. Private base get bases. Return base. Get bases, doc. Foundation, Inc., 59 Temple Place Suite 330, Boston, Massachusetts 02111-1307 USA. Package org.paros proxy.paros.network. Import java.io. Unsupported encoding exception. Import java.utility.regex.matcher. Import java.utility.regex.pattern. Abstracta HTTP body in request or response messages. Public class HTTP body. Private string buffer body equals null. Public static final string storage underscore charset equals 8859 underscore 1. Public static final string default underscore charset equals 8859 underscore 1. Private string charset equals default underscore charset. Private boolean ishanjad charset equals false. Private string cache string equals null. Private static pattern charset equals pattern.compile. Meta plus charset equals backslash plus pattern.case underscore insensitive pattern.multiline. Private static final pattern charset equals pattern.compile. Meta plus charset equals x22 x22 plus x22 pattern.case underscore insensitive. Public HTTP body. Body equals new string buffer. Cache string equals null. Pre-allocate HTTP body of a certain size. A maximum of 256K is fixed to avoid overwhelming by incorrect content length. Public HTTP body, int capacity. If capacity 0. If capacity 128,000. Capacity equals 128,000. Body equals new string buffer, capacity. Else. Body equals new string buffer. Cache string equals null. Construct a HTTP body from a string. At param data. Public HTTP body, string data. This. If data equals null. Return. Set body, data. Cache string equals null. Public void set body, byte buff. Body.set length, 0. Body equals new string buffer, buff.length. Append, buff. Cache string equals null. Set this HTTP body to store the data supplied. At param data. At throws unsupported encoding exception. Public void set body, string data. Byte buff equals null. Try. Data equals new string, data.get bytes, get charset, storage underscore charset. Buff equals data.get bytes, get charset. Catch, unsupported encoding exception E. E.print stack trace. Set body, buff. Cache string equals null. Append a byte array with certain length to this body. @param buff. @param len. Public void append, byte buff, int len. If buff equals null. Return. String temp equals null. Try. Temp equals new string, buff, 0, len, storage underscore charset. Catch, exception e. Temp equals new string, buff, 0, len. Body dot append, temp. Cache string equals null. Append a byte array to this body. @param buff. Public void append, byte buff. If buff equals null. Return. Append, buff, buff.length. Cache string equals null. Append a string to this body. @param buff. Public void append, string buff. If buff equals null. Return. Body.append, buff. Cache string equals null. Get the content of the body as string. Public string tossed ring. If cache string equals null. Return cache string. If ishanjat charset. Cache string equals tossed ring, get charset. Ishanjat charset equals false. Return cache string. Undetermined charset. String HTML equals body.tossed ring. Matcher equals pattern charset.matcher, HTML. If matcher.find. Set charset, matcher.group, 1. Else. String UTF-8 equals to UTF-8. If UTF-8 equals null. Assume to be UTF-8. Set charset, UTF-8. Ishanjat charset equals false. Cache string equals UTF-8. Return cache string. Cache string equals tossed ring, get charset. Return cache string. Public string tossed ring, string charset. String result equals. Try. If charset dot equals signor case, storage underscore charset. Result equals body dot tossed ring. Else. Result equals new string, get bytes, charset. Catch, unsupported encoding exception e. Result equals body dot tossed ring. Return result. Public byte get bytes. Byte result equals null. Try. Result equals body dot tossed ring, dot get bytes, storage underscore charset. Catch, unsupported encoding exception e. E.print stack trace. Return result. Current length of the body. At return. Public int length. Return body.length. Set the current length of this body. If the current content is longer, the excessive data will be truncated. @param length. Public void set length, int length. Body.set length, length. Cache string equals null. @return returns the charset. Public string get charset. Return charset. @param charset the charset to set. Public void set charset, string charset. If charset equals null charset dot equals. Return. This dot charset equals charset. Ishanjat charset equals true. Private string to UTF-8. Byte BUF1 equals get bytes. String UTF-8 equals null. Byte BUF2 equals null. Try. UTF-8 equals new string, BUF1, UTF-8. BUF2 equals UTF-8 dot get bytes, UTF-8. Catch, unsupported encoding exception e. System.out.println, UTF-8 not supported. Using 8859_1 instead. Return body.tossed ring. If buff1.length equals buff2.length. Return null. 4. Int I equals 0, I buff1.length, I++. If buff1i equals buff2i. Return null. Return UTF-8. Foundation, Inc., 59 Temple Place Suite 330, Boston, Massachusetts 02111-1307 USA. Package org.paros proxy.paros.network. Import java.utility hash table. Import java.utility vector. Import java.utility regex.matcher. Import java.utility regex.pattern. Import java.utility regex.pattern syntax exception. Abstract public class HTTP header implements java.io.serializable. Public static final string crlf equals \r\n. Public static final string lf equals \n. Public static final string content underscore length equals content length. Public static final string transfer underscore encoding equals transfer encoding. Public static final string content underscore encoding equals content encoding. Public static final string content underscore type equals content type. Public static final string proxy underscore connection equals proxy connection. Public static final string proxy underscore authenticate equals proxy authenticate. Public static final string connection equals connection. Public static final string authorization equals authorization. Public static final string www underscore authenticate equals www authenticate. Public static final string location equals location. Public static final string if underscore modified underscore since equals if modified since. Public static final string if underscore none underscore match equals if none match. Public static final string user underscore agent equals user agent. Public static final string accept underscore encoding equals accept encoding. Public static final string cache underscore control equals cache control. Public static final string pragma equals pragma. Public static final string referrer equals referrer. Public static final string HTTP 09 equals HTTP 0.9. Public static final string HTTP 10 equals HTTP 1.0. Public static final string HTTP 11 equals HTTP 1.1. Public static final string underscore close equals close. Public static final string underscore keep underscore alive equals keep alive. Public static final string underscore chunked equals chunked. Public static final string scheme underscore HTTP equals HTTP. Public static final string scheme underscore HTTPS equals HTTPS. Public static final string HTTP equals HTTP. Public static final string HTTPS equals HTTPS. Public static final pattern crlf equals pattern.compile, \r \n, pattern.multiline. Public static final pattern lf equals pattern.compile, \n, pattern.multiline. Private static final pattern charset equals pattern.compile, charset equals, \s plus, pattern.case underscore insensitive. Protected static final string p underscore text equals \x00 x1f r n. Protected static final string p underscore method equals \w plus sign. Protected static final string p underscore sp equals plus. Protected static final string p underscore uri equals \s plus sign. Allow space in URI for encoding to %20. Protected static final string p underscore URI equals \r \n plus. Protected static final string p underscore version equals http \d plus \d plus. Protected static final string p underscore status underscore code equals \d3. Protected static final string p underscore reason underscore phrase equals plus p underscore text plus. Protected string misstart line equals. Protected string msc header equals. Protected boolean malformate header equals false. Protected hash table header fields equals new hash table. Protected int content length equals -1. Protected string line delimiter equals CRLF. Protected string mVetorZion equals public HTTP header. Init. Construct a HTTP header from a given string. At param data. At throws HTTP malformed header exception. Public HTTP header, string data, throws HTTP malformed header exception. This. Set message, data. Initialization. Private void init. Header fields equals new hash table. Start line equals. Header equals. Malformed header equals false. Content length equals -1. Line delimiter equals CRLF. mVetorZion equals. Set and parse this HTTP header with the string given. At param data. At throws HTTP malformed header exception. Public void set message, string data, throws HTTP malformed header exception. Init. header equals data. Try. If, this dot parse, data. Malformed header equals true. Catch, exception e. Malformed header equals true. If, malformed header. Throw new HTTP malformed header exception. Public void clear. Init. Get the first header value using the name given. If there are multiple occurrence, only the first one will be returned as string. At param name. At return the header value. Null if not found. Public string get header, string name. Vector v equals get headers, name. If v equals null. Return null. Return, string, v dot first element. Get headers with the name. Multiple value can be returned. At param name. At return a vector holding the value as string. Public vector get headers, string name. Vector v equals, vector, mHeader fields dot get, name dot uppercase. Return v. Add a header with the name and value given. It will be appended to the header string. At param name. At param val. Public void add header, string name, string val. Header equals header plus name plus val plus line delimiter. Add internal later fields, name, val. Set a header name and value. If the name is not found, it will be added. If the value is null, the header will be removed. At param name. At param value. Public void setHeader, string name, string value. Int pos equals 0. Int corpus equals 0. Pattern equals null. If, get headers, name, equals null and value, equals null. Header value not found, append to end. Add header, name, value. Else. Try. Pattern equals get header ejects, name. Matcher equals pattern dot matcher, header. If, value equals null. Delete header. Header equals matcher dot replace all. Else. Replace header. String new string equals name plus value plus line delimiter. Header equals matcher dot replace all, new string. Set into hash table. Replace internal later fields, name, value. Catch, exception e. Private pattern get header ejects, string name, throws pattern syntax exception. Return pattern dot compile, plus name plus, \r \n plus line delimiter, pattern dot case underscore insensitive pattern dot multiline. Return the HTTP version, e.g. HTTP 1.0, HTTP 1.1. At return. Public string get version. Return mVetorZion. Set the HTTP version of this header. At param version. Abstract public void set version, string version. Get the content length of this header. At return content length. -1 means content length not set. Public int get content length. Return content length. Set the content length of this header. At param len. Public void set content length, int len. If content length equals len. Seth eder, content underscore length, integer dot toString, len. Content length equals len. Check if this header expect connection to be closed. HTTP 1.0 default to close. HTTP 1.1 default to keep alive. At return. Public boolean is connection close. Boolean result equals true. If malformed header. Return true. If is HTTP 10. HTTP 1.0 default to close unless keep alive. Result equals true. Try. If get header connection dot equal signer recase underscore keep underscore alive get header proxy underscore connection dot equal signer recase underscore keep underscore alive. Return false. Catch null pointer exception e. Else if is HTTP 11. HTTP 1.1 default to keep alive unless close. Result equals false. Try. If get header connection dot equal signer recase underscore close. Return true. Else if get header proxy underscore connection dot equal signer recase underscore close. Return true. Catch null pointer exception e. Return result. Check if this header is HTTP 1.0. At return true if HTTP 1.0. Public boolean is HTTP 10. If vetterzion dot equal signer recase HTTP 10. Return true. Return false. Check if this header is HTTP 1.1. At return true if HTTP 1.0. Public boolean is HTTP 11. If vetterzion dot equal signer recase HTTP 11. Return true. Return false. Check if transfer encoding chunked is set in this header. At return true if transfer encoding chunked is set. Public boolean is transfer encoding chunked. String transfer encoding equals get header transfer underscore encoding. If transfer encoding equals null and transfer encoding dot equal signer recase underscore chunked. Return true. Return false. Parse this HTTP header using the string given. At param data string to be parsed to form this header. At return. At throws exception. Protected boolean parse, string data, throws exception. String token equals null. Name equals null. Value equals null. Int POS equals 0. Pattern equals null. If data equals null data dot equals. Return true. If POS equals data dot index of CRLF 0. If POS equals data dot index of LF 0. Return false. Else line delimiter equals LF. Pattern equals pattern LF. Else line delimiter equals CRLF. Pattern equals pattern CRLF. String split equals pattern dot split, data. Mistart line equals split 0. String buffer SB equals new string buffer, 2048. 4. Int I equals 1, I split dot length, I plus plus. Token equals split I. If token dot equals. Continue. If POS equals token dot index of 0. Malformed header equals true. Return false. Name equals token dot substring 0 POS dot trim. Value equals token dot substring POS plus 1 dot trim. If name dot equal signer recase content underscore length. Try. Content length equals integer dot parse int value. Catch number format exception env. If name dot equal signer recase proxy underscore connection. SB append name plus underscore close plus line delimiter. Else if name dot equal signer recase connection. SB append, name plus underscore close plus line delimiter. Else. SB append, name plus value and line delimiter. Add interpolator fields, name, value. Header equals SB tossed ring. Return true. Replace the header stored in internal hash table. At param name. At param value. Private void replace interpolator fields, string name, string value. String key equals name dot uppercase. Vector v equals get headers, key. If v equals null. V equals new vector. Header fields dot put, key, v. If value equals null. V dot clear. V dot add, value. Else. Header fields dot remove, key. Add the header stored in internal hash table. At param name. At param value. Private void add interpolator fields, string name, string value. String key equals name dot uppercase. Vector v equals get headers, key. If v equals null. V equals new vector. Header fields dot put, key, v. If value equals null. V dot add, value. Else. Header fields dot remove, key. Get if this is a malformed header. At return. Public boolean is malformed header. Return malformed header. Get a string representation of this header. Public string tossed ring. Return get prime header, plus line delimiter and header and line delimiter. Get the prime header. At return start t line for request, status line for response. Abstract public string get prime header. Get if this is a image header. At return true if image. Public boolean is image. Return false. Get if this is a text header. At return true if text. Public boolean is text. Return true. Get the line delimiter of this header. At return. Public string get line delimiter. Return line delimiter. Get the headers as string. All the headers name value pair is concatenated and delimited. At return e.g. host, www.example.com/r/user agent, sum agent /r/n. Public string get header sastring. Return header. Public boolean is empty. If header equals null header dot equals. Return true. Return false. Public string get char set. String content type equals get header, content underscore type. String char set equals. If content type equals null. Return null. Matcher equals pattern char set dot matcher, content type. If matcher dot find. Char set equals matcher dot group 1. Return char set. Foundation, Inc., 59 Temple Place Suite 330, Boston, Massachusetts 02111-1307 USA. Package.org.paros proxy.paros.network. Import java.io.buffered input stream. Import java.io.io exception. Import java.net.socket. Import java.net.socket timeout exception. Import javax.net.ssl.ssl socket. To change the template for this generated type comment, go to Window, Preferences, Java, Code Generation, Code and Comments. Public class HTTP input stream extends buffered input stream. Private static final int buffer underscore size equals 4096. Private static final string CRLF equals \r\n. Private static final string CRLF2 equals CRLF plus CRLF. Private static final string LF equals \n. Private static final string LF2 equals LF plus LF. Private buffered input stream in equals null. Private byte M buffer equals new byte buffer underscore size. Private socket M socket equals null. Public HTTP input stream, socket, throws IO exception. Super, socket.get input stream, buffer underscore size. Set socket. This .in equals new buffered input stream, msocket.get input stream. Public HTTP request header read request header, boolean is secure, throws HTTP malformed header exception, IO exception. Return new HTTP request header, read header, is secure. Public synchronized string read header, throws IO exception. String message equals int 1 byte equals -1. Boolean EO equals false. Boolean never read-once equals true. String buffer SB equals new string buffer, 200. 2. 1 byte equals super.read. If 1 byte equals -1. EO equals true. If never read-once. http://util.sleep, 50. Continue. Break. Else. Never read-once equals false. SB append, char, 1 byte. If char, 1 byte, equals \n and ish iterend, SB. EO equals true. Message equals SB tossed ring. While, EO never read-once. Return message. Check if the current string buffer trailing characters is an HTTP header end, empty CRLF. At param SB. At return true, if end of HTTP header. Private boolean ish iterend, string buffer SB. Int len equals SB length. If len 2. If LF2 dot equals SB substring len 2. Return true. If len 4. If CRLF2 dot equals SB substring len 4. Return true. Return false. Read HTTP body from input stream as a string basing on the content length on the method. At param method. At return HTTP body. Public synchronized HTTP body read body, HTTP header. Int content length equals HTTP header.get content length, -1 equals default to unlimited length until connection close. Int read body length equals 0. Int len equals 0. HTTP body equals, content length 0. New HTTP body, content length, new HTTP body. Try. While, content length equals -1 read body length content length. Len equals read body, content length, read body length, mbuffer, use mbuffer to avoid locally create too many data buffer. If, len 0. Read body length plus equals len. Body.append, mbuffer, len. Catch, IO exception E. Read until IO error occur, e.g. connection close. Return body. At param content length read to be read. -1 equals unlimited until connection close. At param read body length read so far. At param data buffer storing the read bytes. At return number of bytes read in buffer. At throws IO exception. Private int read body, int content length, int read body length, byte buffer, throws IO exception. Int len equals 0. Int remaining len equals 0. If content length equals -1. Len equals in.read, buffer. Len equals super.read, buffer. Else. Remaining len equals content length, read body length. If remaining len buffer.length and remaining len 0. Len equals in.read, buffer 0 remaining len. Len equals super.read, buffer 0 remaining len. Else if remaining len buffer.length. Len equals in.read, buffer. Len equals super.read, buffer. Return len. Public void set socket. msocket equals socket. Public int available, throws IO exception. Int avail equals 0. Int 1 byte equals -1. Int timeout equals 0. Avail equals super.available. If avail equals 0 and msocket equals null and msocket instancy of SSL socket. Try. Timeout equals msocket.get so timeout. msocket.sets a timeout, 1. Super.mark, 256. Super.read. Super.reset. Avail equals super.available. Catch, socket timeout exception E. Avail equals 0. Finally. msocket.sets a timeout, timeout. Return avail. Public int read, throws IO exception. Return in.read. Return super.read. Public int read, byte B, throws IO exception. Return super.read, B. Public int read, byte B, int off, int len, throws IO exception. Return super.read, B, off, len. Public void close. Try. Super.close. Catch, exception E.